Howdy, my name's Rodney Boehm,
Howdy, my name is Shayla Rivera.
and Shayla and I want to spend a few minutes talking with you today about the art of storytelling, because I don't know how many PowerPoints there are made during the day, but almost all of them are boring PowerPoints and just terrible presentations. So we want to help you make the best presentation possible.
Yeah, beyond PowerPoints, there is the person talking to the PowerPoint, and what's on the PowerPoint is important, and what you're saying about the PowerPoint is even more important.
So let me tell you a little bit about storytelling. Have you ever gone to a movie and cried in the middle of the movie? I have. Shayla, have you?
All the time.
Well, if our audience is saying they don't cry, then they're lying.
Yeah, I think so.
All right, or have you ever read a book and it's a scary story and gone into your room and crawled under the covers and checked under the bed and closed all of the windows?
Right.
All that's fictional. But why are we so pulled into that story? It's because it's engaging. The author's engaging a completely different part of our brain, and that's the power of storytelling. You need to use that power whenever you are giving your presentation, because it gives you that opportunity to really appeal to someone.
Absolutely. The best thing you can do when you're going to tell a story or you want to engage an audience is that good old, hook them, right? You want to hook them. Well, we don't talk about that in this university, but you want to just really get them hooked.
And Shayla, I think that's a great point. A story has to have a beginning, a middle, and an end. And it needs to feel conclusive. It needs to feel that we're bringing you along with someone. Winston Churchill had a great opening to when he was addressing Parliament just after their tremendous defeat in France. He started by saying, "The news from France is very bad." And after that, how could you not pay attention to the rest of his story? So if you get them right from the very beginning and tell them what either misdirection, ask a question, or get somebody hooked. And I realize hook 'em is not a really great phrase here. However, that's what you're trying to do. It's like you're hooking the audience and you're bringing the audience closer to you. You make them want to hear you.
And how do you do that? This is how you do that. You know the ending of the story. You know what you want to tell them in the end. So you have a presentation that's going to talk about this here, but you're starting with something that's completely different. But you know how this relates to that. And at the end, you'll be able to tie it together, and people will actually go, "Oh, that was so cool that they did that."
The other thing about storytelling is you want someone to retell your story. You want someone to remember your story so well that they're going to retell it to others. And that's the point behind this. You want to become memorable. So again, remember, beginning. Start with something that is of interest to everyone. State your problem. Help them understand what problem you're solving. Then tell them about how you're solving it, and then draw it to a conclusive end. Don't bring everybody along and then drop them off. Bring them in and allow them to understand and allow them to go along with you as you're telling your story.
Yeah, and the beginning is so important. So many good presentations we've seen that, for instance, a group's going to talk about something for baby monitoring, right? But they start with, a parent, the story of some parent that is just losing their grip because there's too much going on and they can't pay attention to the kid, and it's funny and all that. And that's the way that, you start misdirecting a little bit, but you're not really misdirecting. You're going, you're going to go right along and fall right alongside what you're going to be presenting in the end. So
it's kind of a customer narrative. You tell a story about a person that's actually engaged in what you're doing. I don't care if it's the most technical detail or not. Most people don't care about the technical details. They care about how you're solving their problem, how you are going to change their lives, how you're going to change how they're making and taking their product, and how they're solving the problem that actually they're having. So that's what people are looking for. They're not looking for the technical details always, but you got to give them enough technical details to allow them to understand that you do know what you're talking about and you're capable of actually implementing this problem.
Absolutely. Once you get them hooked on what you are talking about, they will ask you what the technical details are. That's always a great sign when you are, presenting some product or something. They want to know, well, wait a minute, how are you going to do this and that? And then you have to be prepared to answer those technical details exactly as you're being asked.
Now, let me also address a couple of other things. This is more along the details of giving your presentation. Your graphics need to be compelling. They need to have every point, every slide that you use, every image that you use has to have some kind of a point. You need to not be monotone in your voice. You need to be distinct. You need to be clear. You need to help people understand. You don't want someone to say, "What did they say?"
Yeah, you can engage, a lot of times in this era of COVID that we have gone to this right here, whether it's a video or a Zoom or whatnot, there's ways to engage people on the other side of that lens. So if you're talking with someone here, you also talk to the people on the camera. So you lean in, you look at them directly, you engage them with your hands and everything. So the idea that we cannot, we have to kind of stand like really rigid and let me tell you about my product. Oh gosh, I fall asleep right away.
You become almost robot-like,
yes,
and that's
very.
what you don't want to do,
No.
is to become robot. You're people.
Right.
Let your humanity and let your emotions shine through.
Yes.
Now, one other thing I want to bring up. To tell a great story, you have to have a great story. And the reason that I'm talking about this is you all have great stories. You've spent time preparing this entire presentation. You spent time putting together your solution. So you have that great story, but relate it to someone in a way that will make them interested, not just what you're interested in, but what others are interested in. Put it from their perspective. Make sure that they understand the problem that you're solving. Make sure that they understand that it's all about them, that the solution is actually related to them. And the final point that I want to make on this is that a great idea represented by a terrible story or a terrible presentation will not come across. An idea that's not quite as great with a tremendous story will beat out a great idea with a less than tremendous story all the time. So this art of storytelling, this art of giving your presentation, this art of talking to the camera, this art of making it a performance is really important, because you want to convince others that your idea is the best available.
Absolutely. I mean, this is exactly what will make you and your team successful, is how are you relating to people that are receiving your presentation. We talk about stories, right? I mean, so you have a story in your team, of your team, and how you came up with the idea and all of these things. And sometimes we kind of are at a loss as to how do I relate that. We're looking for a story out there. I suggest to you, you are a story. Why don't you try to find some way that whatever you're talking about relates to you and your story, or how, you can bring some light through your own experiences and everything like that. So, this is the way you make it personal, or find a way to make it personal. My uncle has a farm and he has 70 cows, and I see him, worrying about the cows, about what. My point is that within your own life story, you can probably find some really interesting ways to relate to the presentations that you're making.
The final thing I want to say is that Shayla and I have great experience at being able to tell stories and put things together. And that's because we spent years and years practicing. Shayla is actually a professional at it. I'm not. But having that opportunity to practice, go through it multiple times. Make sure the handoffs between team members works. Make sure there's no technical details, because all of that will detract from your story.
That whole idea of the team technique, you have your technology that you're selling and all of that, you have your story, but that whole idea of acting as a team, knowing when to hand off, how to pass on to the next person, and how to actually, maybe if there's a question asked, who is going to take the first lead, or who is going to say, oh, thank you, Rodney, that was great, I want to add something. So those are things that you can smooth out throughout repetition and practice, and it really shows it, and it demonstrates the people that you are talking to that you took the time and you cared.
Put it together as professionally as it can. Doesn't have to be edited, doesn't have to be put together in any kind of graphics or anything like that, but put it together such that you want to watch it over and over again. The first time you look at it and the first time you practice it, it's not going to be very good. But the next time will be better, and the next time. So when you put your story together and you put your presentation together, record it, review it, then record it again. This will take a little time. My favorite quote is from Blaise Pascal. If I had more time, I would write you a shorter letter. What it means by that is it takes time to be concise. It takes time to draw all the information down to its essence. Take that time. Your audience is worth it. Your message is worth it, and you're worth it.